In 2017, a suspenseful, brain-burning Korean drama came out of nowhere. It won numerous awards. Hundreds of thousands of people rated it 9.3 on a website. Until today, this is still the ceiling of suspense Korean dramas. This is also the anti-corruption mystery drama that brought the show Signal down. Stranger. The story begins with a murder case. The victim was stabbed 3 times, collapsed in a pool of blood. But when Hwang arrived, he found him dead. After investigating the scene, Hwang immediately identified the suspect. Hwang pinpointed the suspect as the worker who just came to repair the TV. With the help of policewoman Yoon Young, they successfully caught the suspect Jeong. However, Jeong denied that he killed the victim. When he arrived, the victim, Park Moo-sung, was already on the ground. If Kang's story is true, then who opened the door for him? The only family members of Park Moo-sung are his son and mother. The son was away in the army at the time of the murder. Hwang thought Jeong was lying, but when he suddenly took out the photos of the 2 men, he felt ridiculous. This means they don't know the 2 people in the photo at all. One of them is Lee Chong-jun, deputy director of the prosecutor's office. The other is prosecutor Seo Dong-ja. The reason why Hwang took out the photos of these 2 men was because Po Moo-sung has enough evidence to bring them down. And just when he was about to reveal this evidence to Hwang, then went back to the crime scene. He found a taxi not far from the scene that could see the door of the victim's house. So he asked the owner for the car's memory card. Young Won-soo, the new prosecutor, was peeking at Park Moo-sung's Junjong. It turns out that Lee Chong-jun had already assigned this case to him. All the evidence points to Kang as the murderer, but his fingerprints were not found on the murder weapon, the other lawyer's basis for committing the crime. Only if we can find the exact evidence that the victim was alive before Kang entered the room. The memory card Hwang found happened to record all this. The video shows when Jeong rang the doorbell, the victim's figure appeared on the window. There's no doubt that Kang is the murderer. The next day, Eun-soo released the video in court. Although Kang to 22 years in prison, however, realized a problem. The suspect's time from entry to exit only took 2 minutes and 35 seconds. How did he manage to kill and steal the property? So he sent the video to the technical department for identification. He then received a shocking news. Jeong, who had just been jailed, had committed suicide. A beautiful woman in black heels is now leaning lazily on the elevator handrail, and the man next to him is staring at him with a strange look. The man doesn't have any ulterior motives. He just doesn't understand why the woman appeared on the same floor with him, because the receptionist just told him the 10th floor is only arranged for people from the West prosecutor. Park Moo-sung brought her here. When he found his room, Hwang opened the door slowly on purpose. He wanted to see which room this woman was going to. The woman also noticed Hwang's strange behavior. She stopped walking and slowly turned her head and realized who the woman had met, because the late arrival of the deputy director was red in the face. Thinking back to what he just saw, Mr. Hwang concluded that Lee Chong-jun and Park Moo-sung must have a secret. Park Moo-sung was stabbed to death in his home, and the suspect that Hwang caught committed suicide on the night of his incarceration. That made Hwang suspicious. If the suspect was ordered by someone, why didn't he take everything and run away? Instead, he insisted on his innocence in the face of hard evidence. The video that served as hard evidence could be faked. Hwang went to the technical department with his doubts, but the results shows the video wasn't faked. Before the suspect entered the room, Park Moo-sung was indeed still alive. But his colleague's next comment reminded him. It's as if someone set this up on purpose. Yoon-jin also found a suspicion. Park Moo-sung's neighbor found the body of his pet dog in his yard. According to his recollection, the day the dog disappeared was the day Park Moo-sung was killed. He started looking around for clues. Finally, she found a bloodstain on the fence of the courtyard wall. After taking a sample, Yoon-jin went back to the police station and prepared to take it for testing. But his colleague, Kim, was uncharacteristically surprised when he found out. He gave the sample to Jin. After Yoon-jin asked him repeatedly, he told him that it was a dog's blood. Jin's evasive behavior made Yoon-jin suspicious, but he was shocked by the results of the test. The prosecutor took the victim's cell phone from the evidence box, and then he unlocked the password without any effort. To Yoon-jun's question, Hwang did not answer. At the moment, his attention was drawn to the call records, because the call logs show that he immediately called this person. Hwang took Yoon-jin back to the crime scene. He returned the memory card of the car recorder and gave it back to the cab driver. But Hwang had a question. The CCTV showed the cab has been parked here since 3 days before the murder. For someone who makes a living as a taxi driver, it doesn't make sense. The cab driver told the truth. It turns out that a few days ago, he was reported for refusing to take a taxi. Not only was his license suspended, he was also fined. This confirms Huang's suspicion. Someone arranged all this beforehand, even the camera angle was perfectly calculated. 3 days before the murder, he designed to prevent the driver from driving, so that the car recorder could capture the suspect and the victim at the same time. He even predicted so accurately that it would be used as key evidence by the prosecution. Even Yoon-jin, who's been through all kinds of big cases. Afterwards, Huang went into the house and reconstructed the crime scene. He found that after the victim heard the doorbell, it took 11 seconds for the victim to open the door. Then the murderer suddenly rushed out and attacked the victim. The murderer is right-handed. He stabbed the victim in the ribs. One cut into his arm, and the final fatal blow into his neck. The whole thing took 37 seconds. And Kong, who rang the doorbell. Timing doesn't add up. If the murderer didn't kill the victim after he opened the door, he opened the door for Kong after he killed him. Even so, the times still don't match up. Then there's only one possibility. When the doorbell rang, Park Moo-sung was already killed, and the person who was captured by the car recorder is the real murderer. If on the day of the murder, Huang had arrived a few minutes before the mechanic, he would have been the murderer by now. And those who knew Huang would be at the crime scene that day. Besides the dead Park Moo-sung, there was another person. The name of LCJ in Park's phone records. When Huang saw that name, it's his boss Lee Chang-jun. He's the only one who had the motive to kill Park Moo-sung. Because Park Moo-sung had threatened, he wanted to expose Lee Chang-jun's coat. However, when Huang returned to the prosecutor's office, he saw a familiar figure. A young and beautiful female prosecutor was alone on the street, getting drunk. Passing by, Huang was intrigued by the sight. But after he took his seat, he realized the news of Zhang's wrongful imprisonment was soon learned by the media. As the presiding judge, Eun-soo naturally became a target. The key evidence was given to him by Mr. Huang. So Eun-soo thought that the chief and Huang were working together. She's trying to get herself killed. Huang was speechless by this little girl. He told Eun-soo not to get ahead of herself. Why would the chief go to such lengths to set you up? A little trainee? He got up and left without thinking about Eun-soo. But on her way out, Eun-soo said something to herself, but Huang couldn't figure it out. When he got home, he was still thinking about Eun-soo's words. But the next day, Huang made a decision that surprised everyone. He volunteered to be interviewed. He took all the blame on himself and released the video of the murderer misleading them. Huang made a promise in front of everyone to catch the killer within 2 months. After the operation, Huang was instantly on the hit list. And that's exactly what he wanted. To use the media to bring attention to this case so that no one would obstruct his investigation. But what he did caused strong resentment within the prosecutor's office. The minister gave him a scolding. His co-workers have isolated Huang. Only Eun-soo sneaked over. She thanked Huang for clearing her name. But while they were talking, Yoon-jin made a phone call. It turns out that Huang and Yoon-jin have just found Park Moo-sung's mother. According to his recollection, the night before Park Moo-sung's murder, someone called him and asked him out for a meeting. After he came back, Park Moo-sung hid in his room. He never came out again. And Yoon-jin found out that he made the call from the prosecutor's office where Huang is. After hanging up the phone, Huang immediately found the landline. But when they tried to find out who made the call, the administrator told them that the data had passed its expiration date. This news disappointed Huang, but he did not give up. Then he searched the surveillance cameras near Park's house that night. He found a clue. Park Moo-sung threw away a cup of soy milk on his way home. There was a rabbit logo printed on the cup. Park Moo-sung's round trip took 32 minutes. So the furthest distance he traveled one way wouldn't be more than 16 minutes one way. Huang quickly found the milk tea store with the rabbit logo. The surveillance data of that day was deleted. Luckily, the clerk who was on duty at that time still remembered Park Moo-sung, because he had an argument with someone that day. But when Huang took out the photos of Lee Chang-jun and Seo Dong-jae and asked him to recognize them, the clerk immediately dismissed them. Instead, he pointed to another person in the photo,